Hi.
Nice to meet
Hi.
you. Nice to meet you. Okay.
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 So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating in the seminar. Just a few words, and I will give the floor to Andrei. This seminar was designed by Fotis and Andrei as a first general seminar at all ages, athletes and non-athletes, in order to gain basic knowledge about the holistic approach of the anti-aging of the body. What is anti-aging, how important it is to know what is happening inside our body, as well as the ways we can improve and prevent possible deficiencies or diseases. Regarding the flow, as I wrote to you in the email, Andrei's presentation will last about 1 hour. In the meantime, you will be able to send your questions in the chat room. Am I right, Andrei?
Okay, good. Yes,
Yes.
it's really.
So as soon as he finishes, he will answer all your questions one by one. Any other questions you may have after the webinar, you can send them to the FSW Gmail and they will be answered as soon as possible. So Andrea, I give you the floor if you wish, before you start, to say a few words about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harley. Thank you. Nice to see you, and thank you very much for invitation to speak with wonderful people in Greece, with your colleagues, with your supporters. My name is Andrei Nitsky. I am professor of gerontology, of geriatrics, and of anti-aging medicine. I'm medical doctor. I'm PhD specialist and I'm professor, and I represent a project Architect of Age in Israel. So if you want our participants, we will send you certificates about participation in our seminar, and it will be from the name of this academic project Architect of Age. So a sphere of my interests is anti-aging medicine, is gerontology and geriatrics, and problems of prophylactic medicine. And today we will discuss. During our first seminar, we will discuss the main trends of anti-aging medicine, and the main message of the seminar is to understand where is the science, because around age and around anti-aging medicine, there are many fairy tales, there are many fantasies, there are many people who are not right, who are not people from science. And there is ocean of information about new methods, about new technologies, about methodologies. So my message is to bring you the novel information about scientific-based anti-aging medicine. And I think that in the end of this introductive seminar, we will be co-thinkers, and we will be colleagues, and we will have the right direction of our thoughts and of our activities. So let's start. And the topic of the seminar is anti-aging methodology, main principles and possibilities. I should say that today is a twist of history. There are many changes. We live in post-pandemic world. We live in rather difficult conditions of revolution in technologies. And of course, there are many fairy tales around this situation. And we live in the epoch of transhumanism. For example, this is the picture of the author of this trend of transhumanism, and I think that transhumanists, they think that the goal of this trend is to make some superhuman nature with the help of modern science and technology, and they want to reach immortality. I'm not sure that it is possible, but this is a trend of this epoch, of these days. But I think that it is not fully scientific. If you will see that it is possible to reach some immortal life, of course, it is not scientific based anti-aging medicine. And at this slide, you can see the trends of transhumanism. Of course, it used some modern technologies such as artificial intellect and they want to wake up super powerful computers which will the masters of the universe, and the people will be the part of these powerful machines and will be under their control. Of course, these things are very difficult, but they are not it is not in our possibilities, I think. Another trend is so-called post-humanism, and the key idea is to prolong life with genetic engineering, nanotechnology, cloning, and so on. These thoughts are closer to life, but I think that we are common people. And we live we work with common people, and I'm not sure that this information is for our everyday activity. Post-humanists are rather famous. For example, Kevin Warwick. He became a keeper because he integrated his own nervous system with a special neural interface, and he can convey his emotions to another cyborg, his wife, for example. But I think that it is not for everyday practice, of course. Or Henry Markram, he is working on creating a full-scale model of the brain, and he planned to complete this work during 10 years. And he think that he will build a special artificial intellect which will be immortal. Maybe, but it is not for everyday work too. Or, for example, Daniel Cariza, he is a specialist in morphological freedom. He thinks that the civil right of an individual to preserve or modify his own body in order to achieve immortality. Maybe this is a trend, but I will repeat once again, this trend is for science, is for philosophy, but not for everyday activity and for everyday life. Harry Potter, of course. So in this brief introduction, I told you about immortality, about age, and about very many philosophical ideas, but they can't be implemented in everyday life just now. But nevertheless, we have some instruments which allow us to work to achieve a better quality of life and to achieve some real results just here. And now we have a really revolution in prevention. And the sense of this revolution is that age is the main force of prevention. What does it mean? The trend of modern anti-aging medicine is geroscience. It's the science which propose the fundamental possibility of slowing down the rate of aging. So we really can make aging not so fast. And we really can delay. Everybody have a passport age. It is understandable. It's how much old this or those men according to his passport. Yeah. And on another hand, we have chronological age. So it's a number of years which is really have this or those men or women. And the dissociation between the difference between passport age and chronological age is this gap must be as little as possible. Because if this gap is large, the human being developed some disease which are not in time. For example, ischemic head disease. Usually it appears approximately in 60 years. But if this gap between passport age and chronologic age is large, this disease appears, for example, in 45 years. So the principle of anti-aging medicine is to delay accelerating aging and to make the gap between chronological age and passport age as small as possible. And of course, we have now a new concepts in gerontology in anti-aging medicine. We have two new terms: lifespan. It's life expectancy. It is understandable, and health span. It's a life expectancy without chronic diseases which are associated with age. So we even have two different concepts: to being old and to being aged. Being old is maybe it is not a very right definition, but it means aging with the diseases, and being aged, it means aging without serious diseases. So the main task of anti-aging medicine is to prolong not only lifespan, but to prolong all health span, which is of great importance. I will illustrate this idea on the example of the so-called Alzheimerization of aging, because really now we have many elders, many people with a very long period of life, and in the end of life they developed the disease, the Alzheimer disease. And their biological age from 50 to 75 years is the main risk factor of the development of this pathology. But of course, there are many other risk factors of the Alzheimer disease. For example, the presence of the variant of apolipoprotein E gene, or arterial hypertension, or smoking, or the deficit of physical activity, or diabetes mellitus. But these things are not of great importance. Of course, they are important, but they are not so important as age. Or, for example, gender. Women get sick 2 times more often than men. It is important, but not so important as biological age. So we have Alzheimerization of aging, and the modern anti-aging programs is to, I will repeat once again, to make the gap between passport age and chronological age as small as possible. Of course, age is a main cause of various diseases. We say even that age is a mother of many diseases, especially if a person have premature or accelerated aging. For example, age is a main cause of neoplasms, from prostate cancer to acute lymphoid leukemia, different sensory deficits, cardiovascular diseases, arterial hypertension, literally pathology of vessels of the legs. It's a reason of group of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, of neurodegenerative dementia, of some kinds of infectious diseases, for example, pathology of the lower urinary tract, especially in men, osteosarcopathy, pathology of skin, and many other pathology. So also diseases of oral cavity, metabolic and endocrine diseases such as diabetes mellitus, kidney pathology, injuries, neurological pathology such as Parkinson's disease, and so on. So age is really the main cause of different diseases and of different pathology. And what is the main paradigm of modern prevention or of modern anti-aging medicine? You see, in previous times, we say that there is a package of prophylactic measures which can prevent, for example, cardiovascular pathology. But if we will introduce these preventive measures, of course, somebody can avoid cardiovascular pathology, but can have, for example, cancer. There is another strategy of prevention of cancer, but somebody can develop a stroke. So this system, the prevention of one disease or of group of pathology, doesn't work because it allow us to avoid one disease or one group of disease, but a person can develop another pathological conditions. So modern principle of prevention that age is the universal factor of prevention, and the biology of age and of biology of age-associated diseases is the main point of our activity. You understand me? So we must understand the speed of aging of this, for example, person. We must understand the difference between passport age and chronological age, and we must do something to make aging not so accelerated. So this is main principle of modern anti-aging medicine. And I think I should say that today we have a few possibilities which can influence their biological age. And these possibilities are the following. Firstly, modern science know the modern pillars or reasons of aging. These are changes in our organism which are accompanied by aging. So we can influence to these pillars of aging. Another possibility is the so-called time study or targeted aging with metformin. It's the first study in history when drug metformin is recognized as directly affecting life expectancy by slowing biological aging, according to the recommendation of United States Food and Drug Administration organ. And age is the main cause of the overwhelming number of the disease, so we must work with age to prevent these diseases. So let me now explain you these principles of modern anti-aging medicine. The first question is, how can we estimate the difference between passport age and chronological age, especially in persons or in the second part of life? And there is a position of World Health Organization about this, and World Health Organization created two large projects, ICOP, Integrated Care for Elderly, and INSPIRE, Support and Development of Geroscience as integral field that studies the relationship between biology of aging, chronic diseases, and health. But INSPIRE project is a more scientific one, and ICOP is more closer to life, to everyday activity. And what is ICOP project, Integrated Care for Elderly People? It's a special project which can which give us possibility to understand what is intrinsic capacity. Intrinsic capacity is if to explain this term, is the description how are we age. And according to modern position, we age, everybody age, every person, according to changes in different domains. What are these domains? The cognitive domain, it means our memory, possibility of self-control, of problem-solving ability, ability of orientation, ability to learn and to have new skills, and so on. So it's our brain. Another one is the motor domain or locomotion domain of our activity, of our possibility to move. It's the balance, the gait, the muscle mass and strength. There is a new modern disease which is called sarcopenia. So it's how we move. Another Domain is a psychological domain, which is of great importance too. It's our mood, our attitudes, our emotional backgrounds. Another one is sensory domains, vision, hearing, smell, and touch. And domain which is of great importance is somatic domain. This is the number of disease which everybody may have, especially in the second half of life. It's, for example, cardiorespiratory problems, our hormonal status, polypharmacia, usage of many drugs or nutrients, and so on. So these are main domains which describe our life and which describe the changes in our life in different domains, in different locuses. I think that it is understandable. So if when we estimate the status of person in everyday life, in a sport hall, in swimming pool, in, for example, special house for elders, in community, we must understand the health of person and their speed of aging of person in these main domains. This idea is of great importance, and I will repeat these domains once again to better understanding. So, cognitive domains, our brain, uh, domain of movement or motor or locomotor domain, psychological domain, our mood, sensory domain, our vision, hearing, and so on, and somatic domain, it's our body and the number of diseases which have our body. This is one strategy of anti-aging medicine. Another strategy is of great importance because it is understandable that aging and elderhood, I would say, is the part of human life. And to have good elderhood means that a person must have good, healthy life during all life cycle. And we even say that the real anti-age medicine begins from infancy. Why? Because many, for example, obese children and adolescents, they will suffer from this disease in adulthood. It is understandable. And the reason of obesity in children, for example, is the lack of breastfeeding. When just breastfeeding is associated with the reduced risk of overweight and obesity because it decreases the use of commercial milk formulas, intensive marketing of high calories and nutrient poor foods. So it is of great importance to have good breastfeeding. If this in infancy have breastfeeding, it's the beginning of anti-aging medicine. And another problem is a high prevalence of malnutrition. And what is malnutrition? It's the deficiency of proper nutrition in children. It means the development of decreased immunocompetence, deterioration of cognitive, behavioral, and motor abilities in old age. So nutrition is a great and is an important part of medicine or medicine of healthy aging just since childhood. So really, it's a powerful idea that anti-aging medicine must be during all life cycle of everybody. And another concept of modern healthy aging and anti-aging medicine is good functional ability, good functionality. What does it mean? Healthy aging means that a person may have very many diseases, but nevertheless, we must organize life of this person in such a way that all domains of intrinsic capacity will work to good functionality of this person. And what mean integrated care for elderly people? It's a very simple example which can give us the understanding how can we define the gap, the difference between passport age and chronological age. If it is necessary to make very short but very simple examination. The first question, does a person have severe memory and or orientation disorders? For example, maybe this person don't remember where someone is just now or what day of week it is. So if we understand that a person have such problem, it means accelerated aging in cognitive domain. Or, for example, we must, another question, we must name 3 words, then ask what day of week today, just now, where a person is, where he loved one now, and after such questions, we must ask person to repeat the 3 words named before. If he can repeat these words, it is good. It is normal aging. If not, it means accelerative aging in cognitive domain. Another question is number 3 is to clarify where a person has lost more than 3 kilograms in weight for 3 months, and also where he was an unmotivated decrease in appetite. So it means if for example, weight loss is large, it means there are diseases in somatic domain. Number 4, to clarify whether a person has vision problems or whether he reads fluently, and also whether there are diseases that can lead to a decrease or in vision, for example, diabetes mellitus or arterial hypertension. It's the simple way to understand the diseases in sensory domain of intrinsic capacity. Number 5 is so-called whispering speech. We must to pronounce 5 or 6 words in each ear and clarify whether the subject can repeat 3 words or more. If can repeat, it means good, and or not, it means the decreasing of intrinsic capacity in the sensory domain. Number 6, to ask what the mood has been over the past 2 weeks, whether the person has experienced a feeling of hopelessness or disappointment. It means the decreasing of intrinsic capacity in psychological domain. And number 7, to perform a so-called get up and go test. So we must tell the person to sit to the chair and then to stand up, to make 3 steps in the room, and then to return to this chair. The norm is to make this test up to the 14 seconds. It means the examination of the motor domain of intrinsic capacity. So very simple 6 points, but they can help us to estimate the functionality of this person. And when we have the decreasement of functionality, it leads to the large gap between passport age and chronological age. So this example, I think that is very simple, is very clear, but it is really, it works in everyday life after 65 years. So of course we can make such examinations in every age, but it depends the number of scales and questionnaires. They must be different for every age. And in the second 2 lectures, we will discuss how to recognize the difference between chronological and passport ages by different questionnaires and scales in everyday practice. This example is for people who are 65 years plus. So this is example of the understanding of the functional ability of person. Another part of our lecture is to understand how can we manage the biological aid in modern conditions according to modern scientific information. And I told you that now specialists in geroscience and in anti-aging medicine, in gerontology, in geriatrics, and in prophylactic medicine, they know main hallmarks of biological aging. And now I will tell you very shortly, very briefly about each hallmarks to to understand what can we do to to make aging not so fluent and to make the gap between ages not so large. So the main signs of aging have itself classification. Maybe it is not for everyday practice, but these are the so-called primary signs which cause the damage of cellular functions, so-called antagonistic signs, which arise the response to the primary ones, and the integrated signs. But this is theory. Maybe it is not very necessary. This slide is for general understanding that today we have a real deep information and deep knowledges about main signs of aging. What are the main reasons of aging? Why everybody became older, and why age is associated with some diseases and with such some problems. So the first one, which the thing which is associated with aging is the so-called genome instability. It's a great problem because during unsuccessful aging, we have the large number of so-called free radicals which attack our cells. Which produced by different chemical products by radiations and so on. Also, we have different mutations of genes. A mutation is the coding of amino acids in a protein, and we have, for example, we say that in older age we have more frequent cancer, and the reason of development of cancer is just these small mutations in the genetic apparatus of human being. Of course, we have the increased number of cases I told of cancerogenesis of cancers and neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease. But it is there is one very easy way to increase the level of genome stability is the right nutrition. And the principle of the preserving of genome stability is to use, as we say, red, yellow, green, grapesy fruits and vegetables, because such different fruits and vegetables in amount 1/2 of kilogram per day really decrease the level of free radicals and decrease the level of genetic instability. Another one, with aging, we have the process of telomere shortening. Telomere, you see at this slide, are the special pieces, special locuses on the end of chromosomes, and with the growing number of the chromosomes depletion, we have the shortening of this telomere, which is associated with, as we say in medicine, decreasing of regulations of vessels. That's why with the shortening of telomere, we have the increasing number of cardiovascular diseases. And by the way, just peptides, and we will explain you in next our lectures and webinars, they can preserve the telomere shortening. So this is very important biological role of modern peptides. Number three, the reason of aging number three is the so-called epigenetic damage. As we say, DNA is not a destiny, because of course our genetic is of great importance, no doubt, it's really so. But nevertheless, the ability of our genetic apparatus, of our DNA, to be in good form, it depends upon our lifestyle. If we have good nutrition, if we have necessary level of physical activity, if we have optimistic style of life, if we have good socialization, we have good relatives, good families, good friends, good partners, and so on, we have really, it's the main reason of the positive epigenetic regulation of DNA. Peptides, modern peptides, also is a factor of epigenetic regulation, or a factor of the decreasing of the epigenetic damage. So it's a reason of aging number three. And I should say that the main maybe important thing which allow us to make good epigenetic regulation is movement. As we say, moving is a personal hygiene, like brushing your teeth every day. So I tell, as a doctor, as a physician, I tell to my patients, when you go to sleep, you must think about how much you move this day. If you move in all free time and all free minutes, it's okay for you. If not, it is good. So in the sense of health longevity, this day was unuseful for you. So this habit we must train. Everybody must train in himself. And if we say about physicians or doctors in our patients, or if you work with people, with your clients. So regular physical activity is of great importance because, for example, an elderly person, a sitting position for more than 10 hours a day means the increased risk of mortality, the development of cardiovascular, metabolic diseases, oncological pathology. And we observe, for example, when people goes to hospital, admitted to hospital, of course, with some serious disease, the functional status of this person after they're discharged from hospital is worse than before the beginning, before admission. Why? Because in hospital, during we have the decreased level of movement regimen of physical activity. That's why we say that constantly moving is like saving money for a rainy day. So it is necessary to move. It's one of very important mechanism, very important factor to make aging not so fluent. Another reason of preliminary aging is proteostasis disorder. It is very maybe difficult to explain, but it's a process of degradation of proteins in cells. That's why peptides, which are the proteins which regulates the activity of proteostasis, are of great importance. So peptides, you see, they can heal the proteostasis disorder, and we will tell you about kinds of peptides which allow to manage proteostasis disorders with age at the previous next hour lectures. Another thing is the violation of nutrient recognition, but this picture is a little bit joke because these are real nutrients, but nutrient recognition, it means intra the cells. So it's one of the features of aging, and with higher age we have the increased necessity in proteins. We must absorb proteins, the level of proteins which we need from age. In aging is higher, for example, in 55 years than in 35 years. So we need some peptides to decrease the violation of nutrient recognition. Of course, another problem of aging is the mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria are the part of our cells, the organella of our cells, which like electric station, which make electricity for cells. That's why cells are active due to mitochondrials. But in age, mitochondrial activity decreases, and the cells are not so active, and mitochondria also need fuel to be more active, and this fuel are peptides. So it's of great importance too. Another thing, very interesting problem is the cell senescence. Senescent cells are very interesting. I say, as a specialist in aging, that senescent cells, they are not alive and not dead. It's an intermediate position. But these senescent cells, they make a secretion of, make special molecules which damage cells around such senescent cells, which cause cancer, cardiovascular diseases, and many other negative moments of aging. That's why now a special branch of science, sonology, it's a science about special drugs which eliminate senescent cells is developed, and maybe peptides in future, maybe will be special peptides which can increase the elimination of these senescent cells. And it's number 8. Another reason of aging is the depletion of the stock of stem cells, because really we have a decreasing number of these stem cells in organism in aging persons. For example, the decreasing of number of hematological cells leads to anemia. Cells of muscles, bones leads to osteoporosis and fractures. Dysfunction of muscle cells leads to a special condition which is called sarcopenia, and so it's a real large problem to renovate the number of stem cells. But these cells, they also need energy for their activity, and this fluid are peptides too. And another thing of aging is the violation of intracellular communication between cells, and you know that the language of communication between different cells are the special molecules, which are peptides too. So you see that peptides are really maybe universal thing, universal remedy, universal drug, and universal possibility to influence, to make aging not so fluid, and not so fast. So peptides are the modern drugs, and is the modern trend in anti-aging medicine from the view of biology of aging. And of course, there are experiments now, which can work out a special new drugs for better aging, and maybe more recognizable, more famous study and research is the TAME research. What does it mean? It means that firstly, specialists decided that it is necessary to work out some drugs which can slow aging and the development of prevention of age-associated diseases such as cancer, Alzheimer's diseases, and so on. And there were many candidates for such drugs: aspirin, rapamycin, acarbose, protandine, and so on. Very many candidates, but nevertheless, the winner was metformin, because it was a study which is called TAME. It lasted for 5 years. It was good organized modern trial. It was randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled. It was people from 65 years plus, with decreased walking speed, without dementia, without severe somatic disease, and they used metformin. And specialists, scientists, they defined it the age of the beginning of some diseases, for example, of myocardial infarction, brain stroke, cancer, and the age of the beginning of disability, and or the age of death, or and the dynamics of the biomarkers of biological age. And it was interesting that metformin, as a drug for treatment of diabetes mellitus, it leads to the series of positive effects from the point of view of endocrinology. It decreased the level of insulin growth factor 1. It's inhibited so-called mechanistic target of rapamycin, reduced the degree of DNA damage, and so on. So it was very positive from the point of view of pillars of aging. We talked about these pillars some minutes before. And clinically, in everyday life, scientists observed the reduction of number of vascular accidents, the reduction of number of cases of cancer, the reduction of number of cases of cognitive decline. So metformin was regarded as the first generation drug that is able to slow down the rate of the biological aging and to delay and to prevent the development of chronic age-associated disease. So, of course, this question is very discussable till now, because some people say that you treat healthy persons, but to treat healthy is very widespread definition. For example, the usage of vaccines for the prevention of infectious disease, or usage of statins when we have atherogenic changes in blood without clinical symptoms, but nevertheless we understand that this person at the first view is healthy, but inside he's not healthy, so he needs the correction of level of cholesterol and so on. That's why we administer statins for these people. So now we have the beginning of a large epoch of the management of biological age, and epoch of the beginning of age as the object of prevention. And metformin is the good beginning, a strong beginning of this epoch, like peptides. But of course, studies concerning peptides now are in progress, and these studies are used on animals, on culture of cells. But I think that large clinical studies are in forward, and we will see the good positive results of this branch of intervention as the therapy of peptides. And another very large field of modern anti-aging medicine is usage of geroprotectors. It's a common name of group of substances for which the ability to increase the life expectancy is proved on laboratory animals and in experiments. And under experimental conditions, they have a positive effects of quality of life of organism, which included, as I told, life expectancy, increasing stress resistance, reducing the rate of development of various age-related diseases, and so on. So there are many different geroprotectors. They can be natural. For example, some hormones, vitamins, and natural peptides. Synthetic compounds based on natural, often on natural geroprotectors, rapamycin, and they are classified by the mechanisms of actions or of action. For example, antioxidants, vitamins, and fullerene, for example, is a special substance, as you can see at this picture. It exists in sea air, for example. It's also a geroprotector. Also, regulate geroprotectors. Another point of classification of geroprotectors is the regulators of metabolism of growth hormone, of steroid hormones, is a special drugs which influence the status of hormones in human organism. Some geroprotectors influence to the signal path regulators. It's a special ways which responsible for the spreading of signals from one molecule to another in the cells. So this group of geroprotectors is very large. It is really so. Includes senolytics. I told you about senolytic cells, and there are some special remedies and drugs such as senolytics which can initiate the death of these senescent cells. For example, some drugs which are used in the treatment of leukemia. The mimetics of caloric restriction. These are special drugs which can allow the person to have a good diet, but nevertheless, if person will introduce mimetics of caloric restriction, the process in cells are so that it makes the mimicry for the deficiency of number of calories which intake this person. And of course, another point of classification of geroprotectors are peptides, for example, cortexin, and another one. So peptides have a very a very large scientific base in experimental medicine, in the experiments in the culture of cells, in laboratory animals. So peptides is a part of this large trend of special remedies which are used in modern anti-aging medicine. It's some information about senolytics. I told you that it's a process of removing of senescent cells, which becomes less and less effective with age, and some senescent cells accumulate in the tissues of the body, and under the influence of mutations, they became proliferatively active and capable to the generation of malignant cells. And that's why scientists decided to introduce some senolytic agents, such as quercetin, is a special substance of the flavonoid group, which is found in plants, mainly mainly red, in onion, in livestock, in apples, in pepper, in garlic, in red grapes, and it made from the natural raw materials by hydrolysis. It's have many positive effects. Activates mitochondrial biogenesis. It's a strong antioxidant. Effects of quercetin are more pronounced at a high level of oxidative damage or inflammation. So, quercetin is modern senolytic drug, which is especially in experiment. It was proved that it is very successful in activity with anti-cancer drug dasatinib. So, quercetin is a part of many special biologically active supplements for in food, so it can used as a senolytic, as dasatinib, but dasatinib has a great number of negative effects. So, of course, the usage of such drug in anti-aging medicine is limited for this reason. So, in the conclusion, what must I conclude in the end of this introductive lecture? That the center of modern anti-aging medicine is biological aid, and the main task of specialists of anti-aging branch of medicine is to minimize gap between chronological and passport age. How a person ages is we can estimate by the assessment of the main domains of intrinsic capacity. So the main principle is of great importance, and we must do it during all life cycle of person. Age-related medication is really a new direction, but further research is necessary, unnecessary. Physical activity and nutrition may be a new drugs, because now we have not a great number, except in metformin, a great number of drugs which can make biological aging not so fast, but it is proved that physical activity and nutrition are the occupy position number one. So we say that in the conditions of absence of drugs, physical activity and nutrition are the new drugs. And peptides are the most studied area of anti-aging medicine, and as far as you understand that peptides, they can influence to the main reasons, the main pillars of aging. Firstly, secondly, they can be used as geroprotectors, and they are a very important part of this branch of pharmacology. So peptides are very important modern supplements and remedies which can be used in everyday practice, and which can help to increase the quality of life, and to make, as we say, the red period of life of a person. And red period is a person is a period in the end of life when we have the decreased level of functionality and a great number of diseases. So we can minimize this red period of life of person by different methods, including peptides. So thank you for your kind attention. This 1 hour of our lecture for me the time goes very fluently. And now, if you have any questions, I will be ready to answer. You can write your questions, your commentaries, maybe some views, some impressions in chat, but I understand that sometimes a person needs some time to think about material, to think about lecture, to read something. So, as Harley told us, we will be very glad to receive your letters with the questions, and I will start the next lecture with the answers to the question to your questions, and if this answer will occupy much time, we will give you answer in letter to make the high level of satisfaction from our conversation and from our lecture and webinar. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for your kind attention. Maybe you have any questions, any comments, any discussions, any propositions. So, Harley, want to say something?
I would like to say in the end that, as you told me, they will be able to again at their own pace the presentation.
Yeah. So, Harley, I sent you all presentations, so you
Yes.
can send these presentations to our participants. Is the first
Yes.
one, and the second one, this link will be active for 3 months. For 3 months, so you can see, re-see, you can return to some fragments of our lectures once again, and we will be glad. And I think that
if you have any questions, yes, you can send us an email, and Andrei will answer them shortly, as soon as possible.
Yeah. So, very good presentation. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So,
dear Andrei, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
So on our next lecture is on Friday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, on Friday at 6 o'clock.
So Andrei will send us a new link for Friday.
Yeah, dear colleagues, every lecture, every new webinar is a new link. So be attentive and check your mail, and especially check spam, because sometimes these links, these letters from this which are generated by this system, it comes to spam. So be attentive. If you will have any problems, please communicate with Harley, and she will quickly communicate with me, and we will send you all necessary materials. So, good evening.
Good Thank you so much, Andrei. Have a lovely afternoon.
Is music? It's a question. So.
Is music helping against aging?
Oh, it's very interesting problem. It's really against aging. It doesn't help, but really, music is necessary to support good cognitive health. The first one, and second one, it helps to support good psychological status, good mood, good attention. What is necessary to understand that better aging is not is three main points, four of good aging. The first one is proper nutrition. The second one is good level of physical activity. The third one is the socialization, to be with people, to be in communication, to communicate with another people. And the fourth one is peptides, as a novel part of anti-aging medicine. So music can help us to have better cognitive aging and to have better psychological aging, not to listen to music alone, but to be in community. This rule is common not only for music, but for example, for social, as we say, social physical training. Physical exercises are useful for better aging, but they are more useful if these exercises are in community, in group. with communication with other people. So I should say that music therapy is important for better cognitive and psychological aging, but more important to discuss music, to listen to music with another people, to dance, but it must be a socialization. Social music, I should say, is a real, very good recipe for better aging. The peptides have any applications on rheumatic diseases such as systemic sclerosis. You see, systemic sclerosis is really a very difficult disease and with a large number of complications. And I should say that it must be the useful of peptides must be under individual recommendations. In general, I should say that what is the point of application of peptides? We have a life cycle. You understand, a length of our life. During this life cycle, we have different diseases which damage intrinsic capacity in different domains. For example, approximately after 60, 65 years, Alzheimer's disease can be developed. Yeah, but nevertheless, earlier in life, we have a group of risk factors, factors which can lead us to this or those disease. So the focus of prevention must be in revealing of these risk factors and in the influence to these risk factors by lifestyle and by some drugs and remedies, for example, peptides. This is classic of usage of peptides in prevention. So we must understand by analyzing of different domains of intrinsic capacity, we must understand the risk factors of different diseases or of decreases of intrinsic capacity in different domains. We must reveal these risk factors and we must understand what we can do with these risk factors. For example, what are the risk factors? It's, for example, as we say, the weakness of muscles. When muscles are weak, is risk factors of dementia, risk factor of, for example, arthritis and so on. So we must use increased level of physical activity, we must use proper nutrition, we must use peptides to increase the strength of muscles. Yeah, when we have disease, especially such serious disease as systemic sclerosis, of course, at the first plan are there remedies and drugs which are officially recognized from the point of view of scientific-based medicines. And peptides in such conditions, we must see in every cases, we must introduce individual approach. So we must examine this person. We must have consultation of neurologist or of general practitioner or consultation of specialist, which is good, educated in this problem. And we must ask this doctor, are peptides suitable in this case or not? So it's the problem of individual choice. But Dimitra, the classic approach is the correction of risk factors, which now, as we say, are the new diseases. So we must understand that risk factors leads us to decreasing of our conditions, and we must in time reveal risk factors of different diseases and risk factors of decreasing of intrinsic capacity in different domains. And we must introduce in time necessary holistic measures to influence to these risk factors to prevent this or those condition or disease or geriatric syndrome. Maybe I explain understandable. Thank you a lot. Yeah, thank you very much for a really very interesting question. Should we approach aging genetics in general in a more holistic view? Food, for example, either to meat, vegetables, food, which how the modern human produce these products, what methods are being used in order to achieve the high demands of the population? Is nutrition number one anti-aging method? Nutrition is of great importance. I should say that, of course, we will have a special lecture about nutrition. Of course, nutrition, there are many approaches to increase the quality of nutrition. One approach is the personification of nutrition, but this method is rather expensive, and I don't think that this method is for everyday use. Why? Because it is necessary to make a full analysis of many foods, of many supplements, of many nutrients which goes to human organism. So it is really very difficult. What is the better outcome, as I think, is to analyze what kinds of diets are more useful in prevention. By the way, in Israel and in Greece, this is Mediterranean diet, and this diet is the best for prevention cardiovascular diseases, dementia, and other problems. And what is the main trend? The main trend, I like this Italian project, which is called NutriAge. NutriAge, it's a special project which analyze all foods which compose Mediterranean diet, and it's separate molecules, peptides, natural peptides, animal peptide from plants, which have a target prevention of these or those conditions. For example, of dementia or of frailty in elders or ischemic heart disease and so on. So it's a new trend which I think that is really useful. Another position of proper nutrition is so that food must be useful for man and useful for nature, must protect ecology. For example, red meat is not useful because it composes so-called Western type of diet, which leads to increased number of cancer, of cardiovascular diseases on one hand. So it is not useful for human being. On another hand, it produces many gases which goes to atmosphere and which damage ecology. So it is not useful for all planet and for atmosphere and for human being too, and for other beings at our Earth. So it's another trend of diet. So I think that nutrition is of great importance, and proper nutrition is really number one in anti-aging medicine. There are many different approaches, but in everyday practice we must stop our choice at the technologies which are population based, so which are usefully can be introduced to different people in different parts of the country. If somebody is very expensive, of course, it can use genetic examination and to make nutrition at this base, but I will say once again that sometimes it is really not so cheap and not so suitable for many people. So this is my position. So maybe some other questions. What's your opinion on the animal lipids? Hormonal disorders and imbalances are everywhere. Does the lipids play a big role to our hormones? Yes, they are really of great importance. I think that lipids are the obligatory component of every cell, and especially of the membrane of cells. So we can do nothing without lipids. Of course, it is really so. It's a first one. The second one, really, lipids are the part of the system of of production of hormones, and for example, of steroid hormones, and they are necessary to supply good homeostasis of human body, and we must understand that lipids are necessary in these things, and in these conditions. So animal lipids are really, if you tell about consuming them with food, are really of great importance. But we must understand that sometimes we have overdosage of some components of food and of diet which damage our organism. For example, we need some lipids, of course, from animals, but the amount of animal meat which we use from diet must be not so large. It will be the next, as far as I remember, lecture in which I will tell you about the maximal level of red meat which we must consume. And but there are many different sources of lipids, not only animal meat, not only animal lipids. It can be lipids from fish, some lipids from meat from birds, and so on. So I think that the problem is not to overload lipid and animal lipids in the diet. They are necessary, but not in very large amount. I think that this answer is the best. But of course, it depends upon age too, because, for example, level of proteins from animals in the age before 65 years must be approximately 0.81 milligram per kilogram. But after 65 years, it must be much higher, for example, 1.2, 1.4 milligrams per kilogram. So it depends upon age. And of course, it depends upon pathology, upon diseases. If we have chronic kidney disease, so the number of lipids and of meat from animals must be less. And if a person has this pathology, these diseases, we can allow to eat some more meat and to introduce some more lipids. So it depends upon many factors. Thank you very much. It's really very interesting questions from Janice. Maybe my pronunciation of your name is not correct. Thank you very much. These questions are really interesting. Dear colleagues, maybe you have some other questions. I think that maybe it's enough, but I can wait 1 minute if you need As far as I understand, these are all questions, but we will be really very glad if you will send us questions by email, and believe me that we will give answers to all your questions in letter or in. We can't wait for the next. We can't wait for the next seminar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dimitar. Thank you. So, thank you very much. I need a good evening for everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear friend, for such interesting questions. They are really inspire me to make another lectures and to make another materials for you and for other participants of our future seminars. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear friends, for the attention. Thank you, and I wish you a very good evening. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.